very honoured and very flattered to be made President of Rose Bruford College. And I'm astonished and hugely gratified that it's possible for someone who scraped a third-class degree to become president of an academic institution. In fact, I'm preposterously proud to be thought of as someone who has anything useful to say about education. I say this not to celebrate my former laziness or to purge myself of shame, but as a prologue to saying why, after my faltering academic start, I've come to believe in the paramount importance of education. When I went to university, if I had any idea of a future occupation, it would have been as an engineer for an oil company, an aspiration nourished by a friend of a friend of a friend of my father. I had got into university to study physics and mathematics, but had realized, standing in the foothills of pure mathematics, that I had as much chance of getting my degree as I had of scaling Everest or becoming a stand-up comedian. So I took the easy way out and I switched to English literature. And I discovered that I had a passion and an ability to express myself through art. So instead of spending my life in a manifestly useful way as an engineer, I've spent my life in pursuit of ostensible uselessness. It's true, art is useless. It doesn't clothe the poor or feed the hungry. It's as useless as, well, as life itself. But it's precisely our awareness of the uselessness of life that makes us want to struggle to give it purpose, and to give that purpose meaning through art. There is no society that doesn't engage in the apparently useless activity of making art. It's a universal instinct. It must therefore be contributing something that's indispensable to human life. What is that something? It's the urge that we all have to make something different of what we find in the world, to transform something, to make our mark. To name each child is an act of poetry. The arts are part of the means to fulfill each human being by making us more aware of the world and more capable of coping with it. The arts help us to be human and help to remind governments of something they need to be reminded of, that we are all individuals, all me's, not an anonymous them. Art is everything that politics isn't. Politics generalizes about people, art particularizes. All politics talk about change, but change can only come about with understanding. And understanding can only come about by identifying oneself with another person. In a word, empathy. That's why we need the arts, to enable us to put ourselves in the minds, eyes, ears, and hearts of other human beings. The arts are weapons of understanding and weapons of happiness. But politicians, unfortunately, are always more ready to fund weapons of destruction and to fund military misadventures. Or indeed to fund the military bands whose music accompanies them, whose annual cost is 5 times the sum spent on our major orchestras. I wonder who's monitoring their box office figures, but perhaps I'm missing the point. Most of you, actors, directors, technicians, costume makers, singers, writers perhaps, designers, will be hoping for a job in the performing arts, or in film, television, or the media. All of you, having spent your time on this superb campus, working within this superb institution, will endorse the value of education in your chosen discipline. There are those who belittle the value of training in the arts, but talent, and aspiration has to be recognized. It has to be acknowledged, encouraged, expanded, and enriched. In short, educated in order to flourish. It seems probable that we'll shortly be hearing about spending cuts in the arts and in higher education, in particular in colleges such as this. I'm perfectly aware of the competing needs of welfare and the NHS, but it's impossible to exaggerate the damage that severe cuts would have on organisations like this and on the cultural world as a whole, which is, ironically, one of the very few successful areas of enterprise and economic growth in this country. Let's hope that this government, in their zeal for good housekeeping, don't forget that it's through education of all sorts, at all levels, that we can begin to improve the economy and begin to change attitudes to class, to the state, to each other, and to ourselves. I know this is utopian thinking, but I've always felt depressed by people who aren't stirred by Oscar Wilde's epigram, "A map of the world that does not contain utopia is not even worth glancing at." I've come to believe that a search for this utopia is fundamental to a life worth living. It's through education and through the arts that the potential of each of us can be fulfilled. And to work in the arts at any level is to experience a sense of fulfillment, of common purpose and shared joy that comes from doing something difficult that gives pleasure to others. At the heart of all the arts lies the desire to communicate, to share with other people your skill, your knowledge, and your joy. And don't think for a moment that these opportunities to communicate with people are going to be washed away by the march of digital progress. When all the lonely people who are bent like slaves over their computer screens find out how lonely they actually are, you'll be there for them. People need the nourishment of the company of others and of sharing a common experience. And while all knowledge may become digitized in time, what we hold in our heads, our memory, our feelings, our sense of our own history, will become more to be valued, more to be cherished, through the stories that we tell each other when we're together about what it is to be alive. If I had to give advice to anyone who endeavours to work in the arts, I would say this: the indispensable virtues for any successful work are faith and hope and charity. Faith that what you're doing is worth doing. Hope that this faith will be corroborated by your audience, and charity in the sense of love for those who are doing it with you. Thank you, Michael, and the Board of Governors for asking me to be your president. I hope I serve you well. Congratulations to all graduates, and good luck with your future endeavours.